We knew that even though crime was at a 50-year low, the numbers of people in our jail was 3 times what it was 30 years ago. What we didn't know was why. We didn't have any statewide data on who was in our jails, why they were there, how long they were there, and what was driving that growth in jail populations, and was it actually making our communities safer? Together with the leadership in the legislature and the governor and the Michigan Association of Counties and the Michigan Sheriff's Association, we put together a really diverse task force to tackle those questions.
And so, I mean, you were puzzled over the last 45, 50 years. Crime in the state has gone down. Jail population has not. It's remained stable. When you dug into the data, which the Pew Charitable Trust helped you decipher, helped you gather and analyze, what did you find? I mean, what was the answer to that question, the why?
Yeah, let me reiterate that without the Pew Charitable Trust, we would not have had the data that we now do have to be able to have a better understanding of who is in our jails and why. And what we learned is in Michigan, about 50% of the folks in our jails are not convicted of any crime. They're pre-trial. They're waiting for process. And about 50% are serving some kind of sentence either for an offense or for a parole or probation violation. We also learned that our rural jail populations have grown considerably more in recent years than our urban jails. And we learned what specific offenses were landing people in jail. Basically, we learned there are 2 different populations. There's a large number of people that are cycling through our jails for short stays, but those short stays are quite disruptive. You know, even in a 3 or 5 day stay, you can lose a job, you can lose your kids. They're incredibly disruptive. So there's a big population serving short stays, and then a much smaller population serving far longer stays. I think you saw some of those folks when you visited the Genesee County Jail, Nolan.
I mean, we saw people up there who've been in jail 4 years or more and hadn't had their trial yet. Craig DeRoche, you participated in this task force, you were a member, but you've also had your own experience with the justice system. You were arrested twice and jailed for drunk driving. It led to your exit from politics. Now you're working for reform. How does your own experience inform your work on this commission?
Yeah, well, what I tell people is, look, I'm one of those people. You know, when you're talking about the politicians that have the pressure on them with the decisions they make, I was one of those people. I was also one of those people that lived in addiction, broke the laws of the state of Michigan, violated my probation, and had to be held accountable for that. And we believe that at Prison Fellowship that you should hold people accountable for what they do wrong. That's a form of love as well, and that's justice. But what we have seen in the country, and particularly here in Michigan with the jail system, is that accountability is not tied toward any level of proportionate repayment for the debt that somebody has, and it's not geared for success. It's not taking somebody from a behavior that is a hazard to our community and moving them toward a crime-free lifestyle.
Let's start with bail and bond reform. What are you recommending?
The task force is recommending a number of reforms in that area, specifically that everybody should be able to see a judge within 24 hours of their arrest if they're held. Frankly, there are some reforms that could allow them to be released before that. We recommend allowing police officers to use citations more than arrests in many more offenses, ones that don't impact public safety. As well as allowing sheriffs, we recommend allowing sheriffs to release people from the jail who are not a threat to public safety. So a lot more opportunities for release at the front end. But if you're held, we think you should have a right to be seen by a judge within 24 hours. So a judge can review whether you really are a threat to any individual or more than an individual in the public, and you won't come back to court. And then we also recommend that you have a probable cause hearing within 48 hours. So basically, we want to make sure that the only people who are held before their trial are people who truly do pose a risk to public safety. Those folks should be in jails. And right now, if our jail space is taken up with people who don't pose a risk, we're not making the public safer.
Which recommendations do you think would have the most impact?
All of them.
Okay.
Every one of them.
So hit a few of the highlights, if you will. We can't go through all 18, but
Well, I think if we can even just get right, not suspending folks' driver's licenses
Okay.
for crimes that have nothing to do with driving safety.
Which is typical in
if you,
Michigan.
failure to pay your child support, if your driver's license is suspended, that's not going to help you pay the child support you
Right.
owe.
Okay.
So if we can decouple suspending people's driver's licenses from so many crimes that have nothing to do with driving safety, that'll be a huge step forward. If we can make sure police officers and deputy sheriffs have some discretion at the front end when they
Right.
can tell somebody is suffering from a mental health crisis or an addiction crisis and can be better served in a place where those issues can be treated than a jail, we'll be better off. If we can rethink how the presumptions that people have when they
Right.
show up in a courthouse and they're not charged with a crime that puts them, that makes them a risk to public safety, we'll be better off. But I promise you they're interconnected and they all matter.
bottom line question is always, what's this going to cost?
I'll speak into that because this is a philosophy of government. What we pay in Michigan is extraordinary for a system that does not give Michigan a good result. More than we invest in higher education, as you yourself have pointed out, Nolan, over the years. It is an immense failure of government. What we have seen around the country, that you invest in mental health. Yes, it's new spending. You invest in data collection, for these counties to find out what works. It's millions of dollars, in some cases tens of millions up front, but what it does is it reduces the size and the scope and the cost of government in other ways. And we've seen that in every state that has done these type of reforms. Their crime has gone down, their expenses have gone down, but you end up spending more in different areas, but those different areas yield great results.